There are some journeys that feel larger than individual success. They feel like answers to questions that an entire society has been asking for generations. Megha, your journey is like that. You were born into a system that decided your place even before you could speak. And today, you manage one of the most prestigious luxury houses in India. What moves me the most is not the destination, but the distance you've traveled. Across caste, geography, industries, languages, and identities. This conversation is not about fashion alone. It is about imagination, about what it takes to believe in a life that doesn't yet exist. I want to share why this conversation matters deeply to me as well. I come from a small town from Pune called Baramati, from a middle class family. Growing up, the world I lived in was small, but the world I imagined was vast. I didn't know anyone in design, fashion, or global careers. Sitting with you today feels like a full circle moment. Welcome to Sharp Pencil Design Studio's Unthinkable podcast. I'm truly honored to be sitting with you here today.
Thank you very much, Vaishnavi. It's my pleasure.
Lovely. So let's begin directly from 2011,
Mm-hmm.
a time when you decided that something is going to shift in life. You were I think you were having a tech career in Bangalore, pretty stable, and then randomly you decide that now I'm going to begin again in Paris. What was going on at that time in your mind?
I think I'm a person who actually looks into what satisfies me as an individual at the end of each day. And in those days, in 2011, I remember I was really not feeling very good about myself at the end of many days in the year. So when I started discussing with few of my friends about what exists beyond engineering and becoming a doctor, which we just discussed about, my French friends at that time spoke to me about the luxury industry. And I did not know what luxury industry was because there was just one mall in Bangalore called UB City, and we had Uber luxury at that time. And then one of my friends, who is half French, half Italian, he just told me, "Why don't you just go to UB City again and take a look at all the brands?" And that's pretty much luxury. And he gave me a link to look into the school called ESSEC in Paris. And when I looked into it, I said, well, it's too late for me to be a designer because I'm 29 years old. You need a lot of creativity before that. So why not go into the business side of it? And this is how my journey started, thinking, okay, let's move into the industry that I really, really love. And this was professionally the decision because I was never satisfied being an engineer. It was not something for me. And along the way, many people had made this remark to me, saying that probably engineering is not for you, you need to do something else. And nobody said what that something else was, but definitely places like Paris or Milan came into a lot of conversations with these people. And that's when it clicked to me that why not look into the luxury brand management, because this was pretty much my dream when I saw Miss Universe and Miss World when I was almost 10 years old in the TV in my village. And I wanted to be part of that beautiful, beautiful universe, which I thought, well, now I can't be in the front end. Why not be in the back end of it to see how things happen? So that was my professional point of view. And then personally, I was also going through a lot of personal struggles with my first marriage that I had in India. Unfortunately, I was married to a not very nice human being, I would say. And with the hardships I went with him, it pushed me to really break the relationship and move out of the marriage, because when you feel like your wings have been cut and you put in cage and you cannot fly anymore, you're hitting your rock bottom. And this is when you need to really bring out your entire courage that you have, that will kick in your survival instinct, you know? And I think that's what happened in 2011 for me, where my survival instinct and my deep desire of getting into the luxury industry came out at the same time. And I decided to, well, quit India in 2011. I remember my family telling me that you ran away, and I say, yes, gladly, I ran away to save myself from everything that was happening around me and to rebuild myself in a new industry. And I think it was a good choice.
What did you think when you were deciding that I'm just leaving?
Actually, there was no time to think. I was just doing it.
I'm sure
So,
it must be taking a lot of courage.
yes, it requires a lot of conviction, requires a lot of courage, and you should be ready to accept that you're alone in this journey at that time, because you don't have, especially coming from India, you know how it is in the country, even today, unfortunately, where parents really try to control the kids and the children's life. And after, especially when you're a woman and you're a girl and you turn into a woman, and when you're married, it's the husband who controls your life and the husband's family. It's not just the husband. And to have your own single identity, and if you want to build that for yourself in a country like India in those days, I thought it was not possible, which was true, because people were still in their societal norms and looking into a lot of, especially the question that I really, really don't like is, what will people think? You know, honestly, I don't think people will think anything, because you're just a piece of gossip for them in India. And when you separate that gossip and get out of this gossip world, which takes in a lot of energy and time and drains you and doesn't focus you on your strengths and to really build you as an individual, this is when I thought, you know what, this world is not for me right now. And maybe I'll come back one day, or maybe I'll not come back. And let's see where it goes from there. And that's how I chose Paris. And Paris was, I wouldn't say by mistake, because I did look into all the geographies in the world. Most of the luxury brands are born in France. And the second country, I would say, I'm sorry, I'm a little biased towards French. I do love Italy a lot, by the way. I would say the rest of the brands come from Italy. You know,
Right.
and then you have some from UK and some from the United States, but very, very little. And of course, some from Japan, which are very, very good. So naturally, I decided Paris would be a good start to restart my entire life. And I'm glad I chose Paris in the end.
Lovely. Looking at your trajectory, I'm sure people look at you from a person from a world of glamour. But what does it actually take to be where you are today?
It's a very good question, because this is exactly what you see in Miss Universe or Miss World. It looks very glamorous from the outside, but the backstage is not the same. To a certain extent, podcasts look very glamorous when you're sitting and talking like this,
Yeah.
but the work behind that you go in preparing it is what really matters. Being an event, I've done events as well in my career before, so having a beautiful event thrown for a brand and having glamorous pictures taken with celebrities and everything looks very, very good, but there's months and months of preparation that goes behind that one evening that you spend for 3 to 4 hours, you know, and people don't see that hard work behind. And it's the same when I started my career, restarted my career after engineering, and I wouldn't discount it even when I'm still an engineer, and I'm proud to be an engineer. Even during engineering times, it does look very glamorous when, for example, Steve Jobs is launching the new iPod in those days, you know, or today Tim Cook is launching something on Apple. But the work that goes behind it takes years of practice and dedication and hard work. Bringing out new ideas, learning. And learning is the most important curve that you go through. And to where I am today, the amount of learnings that I have accumulated over the last 15 years in the field of luxury is amazing. And I do continue to learn every single day, even today, in this field. Because when we look at a luxury as a domain, people think that it's very old because the maisons are very old. They're 150, 200, 300 years old. But when you look at the luxury industry itself, it's not so old. It's 35, 40 years old. Because the first person who actually created this industry was Bernard Arnault. And the birth of LVMH. This is when the luxury industry started. And then he took the luxury maisons, which were such old houses, and put them together to completely create an industry that did not exist before in the world. So there's a lot to do in this, lot to learn, because they're very deep rooted. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of heritage. Coming from India, I do understand the importance, and this is thanks to my father and my mother, in their own perspectives, in their own ways of teaching us as kids in our family. We were brought up with a lot of art and history, social science classes at home. And we had these conversations with my father most of the time. We had debates on existence of God, with our mother. And all of this shapes you as a kid, which is very important, to know your own culture and to know your own roots, where you come from. The debates I had with my uncle, who's a writer, about how big leaders like Gandhi, Ambedkar, and Nehru, and all of them influenced India in those days. How about the Indus Valley civilization that formed India, that was a birth of India, and how all the counties and all the Maharajas, how they actually ran India at that time. What were their philosophies, the Ujjainis, the Chanukyas. This is very, very important. And without understanding the root of these things, you will never understand the culture of a country. And this is exactly what applied when I went to France. And when I went to France, the first thing I did was look into the French Revolution, look into all the Louis Premier to Louis XVI, the Napoleon, the Empress Eugenie, the revolution that happened, including Napoleon. Before that, talking about the ancient history of France, the inventions, the innovations, the debates they used to have in saloniers, the concepts they used to follow, the art, the culture that they invented, the Impressionism art, the Surrealism movement, the Art Deco, the Art Nouveau era. These are all very, very rich to understand. And once you understand the history of these things, you understand what actually inspired the founders of these maisons as Cartier, Hermès, Vuitton, Dior, Chanel, or and many more, in that way. And the same applies to Italy. You had the Medicis, you had the Da Vinci, you had a lot more going on, the Rome civilization that was there before. And all of these things are very, very important. And I think I spent a lot of my time being curious to understand these aspects of where the inspiration comes for a product when a creator of a luxury brand is thinking of designing it. Where does he dabble into? Is it the Japanese culture, the Japanese history, the samurais, or is it the Korean, Is it the Qing dynasty or the Ming dynasty in China? Is it going to come from India, from one of the Maharajas of Patiala, who's the most famous Maharaja in the luxury industry? And what about, the United States, the cowboy era that happened, the black gold era that happened? So I think this was very, very interesting for me to understand. And the moment I started understanding the creation of these things and the history of humankind, it becomes more easier to dive into the universe of luxury, because then you can pick the elements and then see how it can blossom as a dream.
Perfect. I think you've created an entire visual board in front of me, and now I think is the right time to ask you, what is luxury to you? How do you define luxury?
Um, I have two definitions for luxury. Personally, which is kind of connected with the definition of luxury professionally as well. Personally, for me, luxury is time. The more you have time in your life, the better it is, because sometimes doing nothing can create everything, and that's the paradox. And having time with your family, having time with your loved ones, spending those beautiful moments in a cocoon that you have created where you feel safe and nurtured. This is very, very important. And for me, luxury is finding this time with my loved ones, whether it's family or my dear friends who are supportive. Spending your time with positive mindset of people, extremely important in life. Not to be with negative people. I am not saying that there are people who are negative. I do believe in energies, and it's just that sometimes the energies between two people don't match. It's not hatred, it's just the energy, because we all are carrying, electrons, protons that create energy amongst us. So it's very scientific and at the same time universal as well, because we all have our own aura, and covering yourselves, surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are more positive towards your way of thinking and supportive is very, very important. So for me, that finding those people in life and nurturing yourself is luxury. Coming to the professional definition, again, time is a link between the two, because if you have to create something that is long lasting and could be passed on from generation to generation, it takes time to create some objects like that. Not all objects last a lifetime. There are few objects that last a lifetime. And creating those objects with highest quality, highest level of craftsmanship, handcrafted beautifully, pouring in, artisans pouring in their love and soul into the heart of the product is luxury.
Perfect. Now, I'm sure many people want to do something that you are doing in life, luxury brand management, and very few reach at a level where you have. What kind of mindset is required to be at this level?
I would say, again, the courage to believe in yourself, to really dig deep inside yourself and understand who you are as an individual, and then you know what you're really good at in your job, in your profession. Everyone cannot be good at everything. I am not good at everything. I know my strengths. If you ask me to fill in the chair of a finance director, I will do a very pathetic job, But yes, if a finance director gives me a P&L to understand what it needs to be done or how to fix it, then yes, I have the answers. I may have the answers to it. Otherwise, my team will help me find the answers. It's always a team effort. So to understand what are your strengths as an individual is very, very important. And when you understand that, you work on your strengths and you build yourself. And yes, I did go to Paris thinking I'm going to turn around my life. I did not really think that I would reach such a level in my life in less than 15 years after leaving to Paris. It has been a very, I would say, overwhelming at the same time, the journey that has happened. The thing that I have always said to myself is never doubt yourself and never give up. And I have always surrounded with the right mentors around me who have always guided me in the right way. And finding those mentors, unfortunately, in India has been very difficult. So, most of my, I wouldn't say most, actually, 95% of my mentors come from outside of India who really nurture you and support you. And I hope that in the coming, decades, India also produces such mentors who actually want their mentees to grow individually. And this is what I found when I went to Paris. People who really believed in me as well.
Did you ever feel like giving up?
There were certain moments. I wouldn't say no, because when you sometimes hit rock bottom, it really hurts. And you start questioning yourself. But I always remember, and that's when, I remember my grandmother always saying, just dust yourself, get up and go. That's all you can do. And one of my very dear friends always said to me when we were growing up, and even I had the same attitude. Sorry, I'm going to just take a 2-minute thing. God, I think the pollution of Delhi is getting into me. After 2 days, yeah. So the attitude of never giving up. That's really important because, yes, you do hit rock bottom. You shouldn't miss those emotions because you're not a robot. At the end of the day, everyone is a human being. When you hit rock bottom, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to feel miserable. They're all emotions that are coming. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to express yourself. As you grow older and wiser, I think you realize you would know yourself better to understand how to express these emotions in a better way. When you're younger, you become very repulsive, you become very rebellious, you become very aggressive. As you, I would say, grow wiser, not older, grow wiser, I think you would know how to express yourself in a better way because you understand yourself better at that moment in life. And once you've reached that stage, you say, you know what, it's okay, it's just another glitch. And then once that has passed, you pick up and you start again where you've left. And I remember one of my dear friends saying to me constantly in the last 2-3 years, whenever I felt down, I would go to her or my life partner, and they're the only two people I talk to. And they always tell me, both of them always tell me, just look back into what you've done. Look at that 5-year-old girl who was, born in Haveri, brought up in Gadag, sitting over here. You've come so long. You should be proud of yourself and never think that you cannot do the things. And people have gone to the moon, People are launching rockets. People are finding cure and medicinal cures for infectious diseases today in the world. People are doing things. So it's just a matter of bringing that hunger and training. I would say it takes a lot to train yourself to listen to the voice that comes out of your gut and not out of your heart or your head. You have to actually feel it here, and that's why I'm a huge believer in energies, as I was just saying before. The most strongest chakra is here in your gut, according to Hindu mythology. So if you don't listen to the voice that's coming from here, then you're not doing the right thing.
Right.
And this voice always speaks the right things for you. And that's what I've been listening to until now.
Perfect. I'm going to get you again back a little bit again to luxury brands.
Mm-hmm.
So people just don't like luxury brands. They become obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Why do brands create such marketing strategies or such an aura around the brand?
I think I haven't started a brand ever in my life, but working in different um, sectors of luxury brands, I would say starting from Dupont, moving to L'Oreal in the luxury division, and then at Hermès. I would say that what I've learned looking at people in this industry, and I have been lucky enough to speak to some of the founding family members in this industry, I don't think the founders in those days had created something thinking that they would become famous. I don't think it's an art, right? It's really an art. And for them, like any painter as Monet, Dali, Van Gogh, it was to create something that is beautiful and perfect in their eyes, to really augment the beauty of existential nature, getting inspired by nature and making it more beautiful on human beings, you know. And with this notion, when you create something, you come out something which is exceptional, and you're pushing the boundaries. The design always pushes the boundaries of a development or creation of a product. And when design supersedes the creation of the product, it also pushes the talent of the artisans to create something new. Otherwise, why would you need another bag, or why would you need another shoe? You wouldn't, right? If you have a bag, 3 or 4 pairs of shoes, it's more than enough for you to run the entire year. But people do buy more. And I think the dream of building something so beautiful that all of the founders, or even the new luxury brands that are coming out from France and Italy, they come out with this notion thinking, okay, what is the next beautiful thing I can create? And when that happens, you're not really looking into what people need. You're treating to their wants. You wouldn't say that I need another bag. You always say, I want another bag. And creating that wantingness to have something else is what the products do in the luxury industry. The founders, the designers, the artistic directors, and the entire storytelling that goes around for the brand. So it's a complete capsule. And when we start decoding the luxury brands, they're very, very specific, and they're very true to their origins and roots. You should never forget the root of a luxury brand. Like me, if I talk myself as a brand, my roots are in India, but I was shaped in France. I always say that. I was born in India, but my nirvana was in Paris, And similarly, for when you're creating a product, you create it not thinking that you're going to create another product. You're going to think, okay, what is the next thing that is going to bring sparkle in somebody's eyes? When you have that, and you also feel a bit, it's a mixed emotions when a product of this stature leaves the maison, whether it's a salesperson or the creator. It's a mixed emotions, because you feel sad at the same time because a beautiful object is actually going out. But at the same time, you're happy because somebody else is happy having that with them and valuing it. So I think the luxury brands really work around, what we do is we really work around and touch those points through very intricate storytelling, which has to be relevant to the clients and relevant to the moment in the world. It's great to talk about, say, for example, Estée Dupont is a 150 years old brand. Hermes is almost 200 years old brand. The history is beautiful, but if we are running the brand and if we are creating objects that were created in the 1800s and we are selling it in 2025, 26, it's not going to work. How are we going to be relevant to this market? But being true to the roots of the brand. When the luxury maisons actually started, it was in the 1800s. There are certain wine and spirits brands that actually go beyond 1800 to 1600s and 1700s. But when you talk about really creating products like Cartier, Hermès, Dupont, and stuff like that, they were making objects in the era where the transportation was by ships. And then the mode of transportation changed. It became airplanes in the beginning of 1900s. And then it became cars at the mid of 1900s. And now it is, and soon after that, it became even more faster, including, trains and stuff like that. And today in the modern world, we are carrying mobile phones. So you can imagine the trunk cases that were made became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and became wallets. And we don't even know tomorrow if people are going to carry wallets anymore. But how are you going to create a new object that would people want to use but relevant to that era? And this is, I think, the most successful luxury brands are good at tapping and knowing the pulse of the movement of time in the world and then adapting their story to that timeline and creating something new.
Amazing. I think the way you answer is so interesting because you gave an entire visual again of the entire history of the brand. So it brings me back to roots. You mentioned India. What excites you the most today to be in India and working here?
I was actually wanting to come back to India. It was kind of a calling for me that I had. Again, the voice in the gut that speaks to you, and I didn't want to ignore it. And I said, well, I have to come back. I have to work in India, and I have to understand where India has gone after more than a decade that I have left the country. And I'm glad I did it because it's very encouraging to see different sets of generations, how these generations are contributing in their own way to the progress of the country. And the country is booming. It's growing exponentially today, and the opportunities are here in India. Whether it's FMCG, whether it's telecommunications, healthcare, technology, many other industries, biochemistry, pharmaceuticals, a lot of things are happening. AI, animation world. When it comes to luxury, I would say that there is still a slowness to it because we as Indians, we understand what luxury is because we've been born with the environment where we've grown up and we've seen, okay, I can walk into a jewelry store, I can give my own design and wait for some time and I will get what I want. And that is made to measure, which at every nook and corner of a jewelry store, you find it in India. You want a piece of beautiful sari, either you go to Sabyasachi or Manish Malhotra, who do amazing, beautiful, ready-to-wear for women, very glamorous, with very intricate designs, or you can go to an artisan and get it done yourself. And you know that the waiting time is going to be, 1.5 months to 3 months to 6 months. And so we are born with the notion of what is the know-how, which we call as savoir-faire in France, which all the luxury brands have. And knowing this is a very, very important thing to understand luxury, because everything is handmade. And that's the reason I feel like Indians do connect to the notion and value when they know how the product has been conceptualized or transformed into what it is. And once that explanation is done, they're convinced about the value of the product. But as of today, there are only those set of people who are exposed to this universe. Luxury still hasn't completely developed in an online platform, while almost 50% of retail sales in India come through online platforms. We are still lagging behind in that in India. So reaching those tier 2, tier 3 city consumers, because India is like a needle in a haystack. It's not like China where everyone floods to Beijing, Shanghai, Sanya, Hainan, and buy over there in those specific moments when the shopping period is happening. In India, people buy from everywhere, right from a tiny village to a metropolitan city like Delhi or Bombay. Yeah? And reaching these consumers is the biggest challenge. So what I've seen today is there is a lot of potential in India. I feel like it's an elephant in the waking, and it is still not wakened completely yet. It would take some more time, because it's not just the current status of luxury industry that we're talking about in India, because luxury industry, I think last year was around $20 billion in India. If you collect all the French, Italian, and outside India luxury brands that are operating in India, the amount adds up to almost $1 billion, which is nothing compared to the global market of luxury where we are today. So keeping that in perspective, if we have to really grow this, it's going to take, as for me, kind of a threefold strategy. One, really having amicable regulations to help import goods into India, and regulatory aspects from the government needs to really help us to open up the market, which is currently not the case, which I completely understand, because Indian Prime Minister, he announced that India would be a developed market by 2047. And if he wants to make that happen, that dream come true, that means India needs to be ready to be a developed market. And of course, we need to have quality controls, we need to have regulations, we need to have set processes of what is coming into India and what is going out of India. Totally agree with this approach. But I think we are at the crux of that. And although it's a hurdle right now, hopefully in the coming years, when all of these is ironed out, the regulations are going to be, I would say, set so that there are fewer surprises and there is ease of business on a daily basis. And then secondly, I would say also it's the clients. Today, clients do not want to buy luxury in India. They want to still buy luxury abroad when they travel. They don't want to spend in India. So this is another challenge, making Indians buy in India. And this is the third fold I'm coming into. When the brands look at both of this, then for them also it becomes a precautionary measure. They're like, okay, let's wait and see what's happening, in India. So I think currently we need to start working on it for sure. And talent as yourself, the Gen Zs, the new Gen Zs who are coming into the working industry now, are the ones who are going to build the future of this market, including the Gen M population. So we need to start working and figure out how to work together, because both cultures are very, very different. Both ways of working are very, very different, but I'm sure there is a way to work together. And the second thing is, despite of all the hurdles, knowing that India as a country needs talents. We need to develop talents in India. And I think this is the most important time to start developing this pool of talents that will be trained very well to support the growth of the luxury market that is going to come in the future.
Oh, perfect. I think and the next question is about this only. Many young students, many young designers are going to watch this podcast today. You work closely with designers, you work closely with the marketing teams as well. What are some things that you think only designers possess? And what are some things that they can learn from the business side or the marketing teams?
I am not a designer, so I cannot really fill in the shoes of an artistic director or a creative director. But I've had the pleasure of working with a few of them. I think across all the geniuses in the industry, whether it's France, Italy, or UK, schools like Saint Martin who develop a lot of beautiful designers, working with creative people as part of Comité Colbert as well in France. The one thing that a creative director or an artistic director or a designer possesses is no matter the age of the body, the mind is of a 4-year-old. And this is very, very key for a designer to not let go of that element of imagination. Because the imagination is the thing that creates the dream and brings that dream into reality. And it was a struggle for me. I wouldn't say it was very easy. It took a good 2 to 3 years for me to really understand this concept of developing in luxury area and how to nurture the 4-year-old in each and every creative person that you come across working from a business angle. And this is very, very important because creative people do not have boundaries. They don't like boundaries. They don't like set rules and regulations, They don't like pricing, for example. They don't like to be said that, oh, this has to be affordable, No. So the way I have trained myself with help of my mentors who have also worked with quite big names in the industry is to really give the white blank board to them. They do what they have to do, the freedom, the liberty that they need to express their ideas on this. And from a business perspective, then you be agile to adapt it. So that's why it's a process that takes time. It takes a lot of time. And from a business person's perspective, it requires a lot of patience to work with creative people. And I think for the Indian young designers, I would say that never let the 4-year-old go out of you. The moment you let that little child go, you lose your creativity. And always make sure that you nurture that element inside of yours and keep it alive.
In India today, there are many parents, students who are not even aware that a career in luxury brand management or design even exists. And when we try to explain to them that no, there are a lot of opportunities and there is a field called fashion, there is a field called design, the reply or the response that we get is, oh, okay, but these are very unstable career options if you compare it with medicine or engineering, as we know, the conventional fields. So from your perspective, how do you see this situation still going around in India today?
I actually feel sad to see this happening because engineering and medical fields are amazing. I myself wanted to be a doctor when I was a child as well, either a doctor or work in the glamour industry, but in the fashion industry. But but there are many more things outside this industry. It's not just, I would say, luxury. I think the Indian students and the young generation in India again needs to have that courage to take the decision for themselves. I mean, when I was growing up, we did not have internet. We did not have avenues to explore things. Um, I got to know about luxury when I didn't even know that Louis Vuitton was a luxury brand until somebody from France I met who explained to me that it is a luxury brand. You know, it was just a store which was intimidating to walk into because of the sheer price of the product. You know, who would buy a wallet for 20,000 rupees at that time in 2009? It's very, very expensive. 20,000 would have been a salary of a household in India at that time per month, you know. So, so, so yes, I think with all the access of information that we have today, my message would be for the young generation to see if they really don't go into it thinking that it is glamorous and I'm going to be taking pictures next to Robert Downey Jr. or Salma Hayek. No, it needs to, the industry really needs to speak to you. You need to be really passionate about it. If I look at my engineering friends, I'm going to just deviate a little bit over here. If I look into my engineering friends, they all are doing fantastic in the Silicon Valley or in Australia or in London, you know, having beautiful careers in multinational companies, having amazing salaries. Luxury doesn't pay so well, you know, and I chose to leave that and move into this career because of sheer passion. I know that it will pay me less compared to what my friends are being paid today as directors in their companies. But at the same time, I know that by doing this job, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, I'm feeling good about myself, and that's what matters in life. Because again, coming back to the Hinduism, which I think most of the Indians understand over here, when you're gone, you take nothing with you. So the best you can do in the days that you live are actually to live your life on your terms and to enjoy what you do. And if you think that luxury industry is something that speaks to you, you're okay to have a lesser pay than a doctor or an engineer. Again, it depends at what level, you know. A successful doctor or a successful engineer, a successful luxury individual will always earn a bit less. Or a CEO of a bank, a multinational bank, will always earn more than us, you know. But if the industry is talking to you and it makes you feel happy to be working in that, then yes, you have to just listen to, again, the voice inside you that is guiding you to do it. Don't be scared to tell your parents that I'm going to go ahead and take up this as a career. And this is what I always talk to all my team members and employees in the last few years that I've been working in my team. And most of them say, yeah, but you know, especially in India and in Asia, you know, yeah, but my parents don't like us working in stores. They think being a retail salesperson is very demeaning to the family and to the society. No, it's not. Imagine you are spending 60% to 70% of your time working after you graduate. If you're not enjoying what you do in that time, because you're spending more time with your colleagues than your own family, and if you're not enjoying that time as a working individual, you're not doing justice to yourself, you know? And that's what I keep telling my team members, that if you love it, convince your families to do it. And look around you. When you're surrounded by a beautiful retail store selling beautiful objects, is the most, and your sole responsibility is to put a smile on your client's face. That's your responsibility. Of course, there are a lot of hardships that go when a client is not happy, etc., etc., etc. But in totality, when you look around yourself, you're surrounded with beautiful things around you. And that's what should always inspire. And this is what drives me every day to work, is that you're just surrounded with beautiful things. If I think about my previous career in telemedicine, I was spending all my days in hospitals, which is very satisfying at the end of the day because you're helping people get well. But looking people unwell and sad in hospitals versus selling a beautiful object to bring smile on people's faces, I would always choose the latter. You know?
Yeah. So I hope this reaches to girls who are in small towns in India who are dreaming of doing something similar. As you said, they need to really tell their parents that I want to do this, and I can't imagine my life doing something boring that I don't want to do, or just to sound practical or stable as the society
Yes.
expects them to be. So,
And just to add to that, it's not that you're successful because you're an engineer and a doctor. You know, no job is small. For me, it's the same respect you give to a person who is opening the door when you enter the office, that is your security guard, to the CEO of the luxury brand. No job is small, no job is demeaning. And I think this is something that every individual in India needs to understand, which is very, very far away, which even today it's really sad to see the way people are actually treated at that level. You know, when you walk into offices, you see that demarcation even today. It's going to take a long time, but generations like you can change it, you know? And I think it's in your hands now.
right. So, what is that one advice that you'd like to give to a girl, a small girl watching this, that she also watches pageants, she watches Miss India, Miss Universe, and thinks that this is a far fetched world, this is just limited to the TV screen? What is your advice to her?
My advice would be curious. Don't lose a curiosity, because once you're not curious, you pretty much stop living. You're not nurturing your brain. And the curiosity is the one that keeps your brain active all the time. And and if you fall in love with any industry, today you have the means, you have the access of information, you have so many different ways to make that dream come true, which in our generation, because I'm from the 80s, so it was not there in those days. Yes, if somebody asks me a question, would you have taken this course if you had known when I was in my 20s? I would say gladly yes. But did I know when I was 20-year-old that this course existed? No, I didn't. Today, a 10-year-old can Google about this and read about it. Not that, they are eager to know what they're going to be doing in their life. But as soon as you start hitting your teenage, you start moving towards your 17, 18, 19, you start understanding a little bit of your desires, of what you need to do next. And just read as much as possible to understand what this industry is about. Listen to other podcasts, which are available today. There are a lot of podcasts on luxury industry, and educate yourself and see how and what is the best way you can be part of this environment. At the same time, there would be disappointments because sometimes the parents will not support you. They will say, no, it's not possible, etc., etc. But it's fine. It doesn't matter as long as you're determined to do it. And that's what kept me going. I remember when I was doing ESSEC, I had no money. Most of my tuition fees at the end was sponsored by the school itself. And I'm eternally grateful to my school directors like Anthea and Denny Morissette, who have always, always supported me during the school. And at that time, I was having additional jobs to feed myself. I had €1 to eat every day, but it's okay. A human body doesn't need to survive by eating 3 meals. It's just a marketing from United States. You can survive with 1 meal. All our Ayurveda Gurujis say that. You don't need much to survive, to eat. And with that €1, I pulled out my entire studies at ESSEC. Yes, there are hardships, but you need to have the resilience. You need to have the courage to make sure that, yes, you're going to do it. And this has to come when you decide that you are going to make yourself uncomfortable. You're coming out of your comfort zone of what your parents have provided, and you're stepping into a zone which is very uncomfortable, and you have to figure out what you need to do in that uncomfortable zone, then to make it comfortable to yourself. And that journey, you need to have the utmost courage in India to make it happen. And I hope that schools like SP Jain, Instituto Marangoni, Nift, and many, many other small schools that are budding right now in this arena are going to support this dream of many of the young generations that are coming. The other day, I was talking to a couple of schools in Bombay, and brilliant minds, honestly, brilliant minds. And what really pleases me in this industry is 80% of them are women, and India needs an industry that nurtures women in India. We are falling short of it. Most of it are headed by, it's still a male domination. I'm not a feminist. I'm not against male identity. Men have their own strengths. Women have their own strengths. And I think when they're combined together in the right way, a brilliant team can be formed. But at the same time, I'm hoping we started the movement as millennials, and I hope the new generation is going to take it forward and bring this sense of, I would say, not equality, but sense of belonging, where both genders are working harmoniously together at the same level. It's not just about equality. You can fight for equality, but working in harmony in that equality is more important. And I hope this generation can bring that. And I'm happy that women have a platform through this industry in India.
Perfect. I think it's lovely that you brought up design education at the end of your answer. That's exactly what I was coming at now. There are so many colleges in India coming up. There's a big many colleges have come up just last year. There have been 3,000 new design institutes in India. And like in Sharp Pencil, we train students, we train them at the most foundation level, where like they're in 10th, they're in 11th, they're just starting out. They're just getting to know about these colleges. What do you think institutes like us, colleges, should focus on the most to make the best out of students and make them industry ready?
I think number one, for institutions such as yours, or whether it's SP Jain or Instituto Marangoni and the likes of the others, the most important thing is to bring them down to reality. Because this world, as we started our conversation, it can look very glamorous from the outside, but it's very important to show the mirror and speak the truth on what it actually takes to make this happen, you know. And it's not all sunshine and, you know, and cocktail parties and photographs and red carpets, you know, and movies and Hollywood and Bollywood. No, there's a lot more things that go on behind. When you know this, a lot more things go on behind. How are you going to position yourself? The second step is how you, as a student, are going to position yourself in this industry. Is it going to be designing? Is it going to be visual merchandising? Is it going to be retail concepts? Is it going to be communications? Is it going to be logistics? Is it going to be operations? And to really understand, if it is designing, what kind of designing are you going to be part of? You know, is it going to be ready to wear? Is it going to be soft goods? Is it going to be hard goods like watches, jewelry? You know, is it going to be technology? Is it going to be automobiles? So it's very important to question the students, to make them think that how do they want to orient themselves, and give that platform and place of choices to know. And I think it's very important for the faculty of the school to understand this industry in the best way possible, to transparently share this with the students so that they know when they come out how it kind of looks like, because you will never know how it functions until you've done the job inside. But at least drawing the picture is very important for the students. So that is the second thing. And then the third part is connecting them with the industry people who are working. And I can see that unfortunately in India, it's very difficult to bring these people together. The schools shouldn't give up. You need to still continue and try and get as many industry experts to connect with them, to talk with them, to talk about their own experiences, the way they have built their careers, how does their day look like, as you know, there was a point that we were discussing. It's very important to show them at each level how that function actually functions, to give a sneak peek into reality. Yeah.
Lovely. And now, finally, I have some student questions for you. So, 2 questions from students. The first question is, Prisha says, if you were a student today, what would you focus on learning first?
Wow, I need a moment to think about that. Given my age and experience, I would say, I think the first thing that I would like to learn is about the best way possible to work with the new generation, which is the biggest challenge that I foresee in the coming years. How to be agile and adaptive, receptive to the generation that is ahead of us, and also how to make them understand on how to work with us, you know. And talking about learnings, I'm still a geek and I'm still fond of technology. So I think I would like to still dabble into the universe of AI a little bit more and understand this aspect, although it does not really apply in true luxury world at all. But still understanding it, again, the curious mindset, understanding it is important. Even though if you don't use it, it's fine. What really helps is every new thing that comes into the world teaches you something. You may not apply it directly, but maybe you can apply the thought process of it indirectly into something else. And this is always, I believe that whenever you learn something new, it always helps you grow further.
Perfect. And the final question, which is asked by Shreya, is what is the biggest lesson that you live by in your life?
There are many, yeah. uh, there are quite a few, but if I would say the biggest I would say is resilience. Is really resilience with being humble and kind, and I think that teaches you a lot, because it's very easy to get lost in titles and what people call power positions. It's very easy to let your ego make the best of you sometimes. And I think being humble, being kind, at the same time having a very resilient mindset is the biggest lesson that I've actually learned until now in my life. And I have to thank a lot of people along the way who have taught me that. Yeah.
It was such a wonderful conversation today. I think we were just discussing before the podcast that it's sad that India doesn't know about a Megha who's running this crazy brand, and it's high time that we introduce you to the world, especially to students who want to get into this field. So thank you so much for coming today here and giving us your valuable time and your thoughts. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. It's my pleasure, and I'm happy to share my experiences if it can help the budding, students who are going to hopefully make India shine tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.